In today's video, we explore the fascinating but sometimes deadly consequences of the world of danger. From tragic accidents to catastrophic disasters, we'll delve into the stories of those who witness things so gruesome that it's so terrible to tell. Disaster is somehow always lurking behind every safe thing you can think of. Like say going to watch a friendly match between two clubs at the stadium. You don't know when a stampede might happen and lives lost. Watch this clip for 3 of the deadliest stadium disasters.
Top 3 stadium disasters. Number 3. The Hillsborough disaster. England, April 15th, 1989 before a soccer match. Over 50,000 tickets were sold to a game, and the fans of opposing teams were kept separate, as it could get violent otherwise, and the clock was ticking until kickoff. Police Chief Duckenfield decided not to set a delay, and as minutes went by, fans became more and more anxious to miss the game, causing more and more pushing and panicking. Duckenfield then called to open 2 more gates, to let everybody else in. So then thousands of fans started rushing to the new gates. The game starts, and people are still rushing into the new gates. So many in fact, that people started to hop over the fence onto the field, and the game was stopped. As police rushed over to see the overpacked stands near the new gates, people started to panic. Some people were pulled to safety in the stands above, and whoever can climb on top of the crowd to escape were doing it for their lives. As there were so many people, the pressure started to squeeze everyone so tight they could barely breathe. It's now people realize how dangerous the situation had gotten. There weren't even enough stretchers to carry the injured. Fans helped by using advertisement boards to carry more injured. In this human stampede, 96 people died from being trampled and suffocated, and 766 other people were injured. Number 2. In the Le Mans race of 1955, Mike Hawthorne slowed down to make a fuel stop. The car behind him swerved to avoid the crash, and the car behind that guy just so happened to be trying to overtake them, and while driving over 150 miles an hour, hit the back of the swerving car and flew into the air, then colliding with the barrier in such a way that it started flipping, and pieces started to fly off of it into the crowd. At 150 miles an hour, the heavy engine rammed through people like a wrecking ball. Meanwhile, the hood flying like a frisbee decapitated multiple people. After all was said and done, there were 84 deaths and 120 injured, but the gruesome way the events played out led to racing being banned in France. And number 1. The Lima riot of 1964, also known as the world's worst stadium disaster, and for good reason, as the referee's call during an Argentina-Peru soccer match caused the fans to go crazy. One fan, since called La Bamba, ran onto the field to argue with the referees, but the police got involved and were unusually cruel, bringing out the police dogs, kicking, and beating him with their batons. These violent actions turned the crowd into an ordinary shouting sports mob to rioters. People then rushed onto the field as the refs and players escaped, but the crowd versus police riot had just started. The crowd threw bricks while the police threw tear gas. Weirdly enough, it wasn't any of these rioters that were in the most danger, but the ones rushing out of the stadium to avoid the clash. Exits were blocked off during the game, so the first people to leave were met with metal gates. More and more people pushed, not knowing these gates were closed, and the pressure was so great in fact, the gates ended up bursting open after a while. But it was a while, as people were stuck for hours under dead bodies, and everyone who did die did so in the tunnels, and not in the riot-on field. 328 people were crushed and stomped to death, and another 500 were injured. So many people were dead, a temporary morgue was set up, and families searched through the dead bodies to see if their loved ones were amongst the worst off. The riot took to the streets for another 15 hours, where stores were looted, cars were set on fire, and 2 police officers were killed, closing the worst stadium disaster to ever happen, and hopefully will ever happen.
You might never know how much liberty you should give your child when he chooses to play hide and seek again after you watch this video. David goes on a hide and seek adventure on a family trip, never to be found again.
June 14, 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin disappeared while camping with family in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It was 4:30 in the afternoon, still daylight out, and young Dennis was seen going behind a bush to hide with the intention of jumping out and scaring the adults. He hid behind the bush with his brother and other children from another family. Dennis's father saw exactly which bush he hid behind, but Dennis didn't come out. And after about 5 minutes, Dennis's father began searching for him. He ran down the trail for nearly 2 miles with no trace of him at all, and that's when the search began. They had over 1,400 people looking for Dennis and later stumbled upon a shoe and a sock, as well as a set of footprints, one with a shoe and one bare footprint, which led to a stream where they disappeared. But the father still believes that Dennis was abducted. Dennis disappeared while wearing a bright red shirt, so he should have been easy to spot. And on the afternoon that Dennis went missing, another family at the campground recalled hearing a sickening scream. And shortly after, they witnessed a bear that moved like a man, with something red slumped over his shoulder while running up the trail.
While going through her grandfather's luggage, a lady finds a photo that reveals something that might have been a deal breaker for the police in finding a captive woman. But all grandfathers are loving and doting, right?
I already know this video is going to show up at night for you. I don't care. You tell that there is something deeply wrong with this photo. It was discovered in a hidden lockbox after her grandfather had passed, and the woman who found it, Michaela Jerome, she thought the same thing that you did. There's something that's kind of off about this picture. Very quickly, if you're not already, make sure to go check out my podcast, The Scariest One You Know, Creep Time the Podcast. Can use the link in my bio. We're on Spotify and Apple. Well, the photo, she was almost sure, clearly showed the staircase of her family home. But she couldn't be sure about what this was in the center until she enhanced the photo. A hauntingly clear image of what appears to be a woman clawing her way up those stairs. She eventually turned in this photo for analysis with the police, and it took them 4 months, but they determined that this was more than likely a scenario of captivity. If her grandfather did take this picture, he had this woman in his possession. Still, nobody would even know who she was.
Want some facts that might make your blood curdle? Well, watch this clip. Did you know that if you ever get electrocuted badly and survive, it leaves a stretch mark on your back that looks like lightning?
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 24. There's been multiple cases of people actually being eaten alive by an escalator. If you like to eat cereal, there's a 21 to 38% chance that you're also eating an Acarus mite. Supposedly, if you have Sanpaku eyes, meaning that there's white below your iris, it actually means that you're supposed to die young. Every time you feel very aggressive, your brain is set to kill for a few seconds. So in that 1 second, you could kill a human being. When getting laser eye surgery, you can actually smell the parts of your eyes being shaved down by the lasers. If you're a male, after you die, your loved ones can have a doctor electrocute your prostate, forcing you to ejaculate for your sperm. Female dragonflies often fake their own death to prevent rape. If you ever get burned by electricity, it will leave burn marks shaped like lightning on your skin. Many pets actually die because their owner dies unexpectedly and nobody comes in to check in on them in time.
Do you know the Cheeto Dust Killer? Apparently, he is a man that smothers people and covers them in Cheeto dust, and so this earned him his name.
The Cheeto Dust Killer. February 9th, 2006. A witness watches a man in Taylorsville, Utah hold a bottle of Coke and a bag of Cheetos as he talks to 29-year-old Sonia Medja outside of her apartment. Suddenly, the man smacks Sonia hard on the head and forces both of them into the apartment. When Sonia's husband comes home, he finds the man's food outside the door. Inside the apartment, he finds Sonia stripped nude and strangled to death on the bed, and her body covered in Cheeto dust. Let's fast forward to February 9th, the same day, but a year later and only a mile away from the previous crime. An unknown man breaks into the apartment of Damiana Castillo and smothers her with a pillow. The investigators compared the two crimes and matched the DNA to the same man. Unfortunately, the judge has sealed the case, so the verdict is unknown. But what we do know is that police found the man who we call...
Whatever you do, do not say the words of the poem you are about to see out loud. Rumor has it that if you say this poem out loud, then you will die, and it has been tested too. So, whatever you do, do not read the poem out loud.
If you say this out loud, you will die. Okay, so there's this cursed Japanese poem called Tamino's Hell. And people believe if you say it out loud, you will die or be cursed for the rest of your life. One of these deaths was Shuji Terarama, who made a movie off this poem. And exactly 1 week after the movie was released, he suddenly just dropped dead. Another time, this young college girl was dared by her friends to say the poem out loud. And she did, and 1 week later, she suddenly just dropped dead. I'm not even going to put the poem on screen, because even if you read it in your head, it could still work. This is something you should never read or look up, so whatever you do, do not look up Tamino's Hell and read it, because it could very well be the last thing you ever do.
In the face of a very strong tsunami, there really isn't time to think. This video clip shows you what might happen if you are ever faced with a situation like this.
These are videos humans were never meant to see, part 21. Okay, so we all know how scary and powerful water could be, especially when a tsunami takes place. Water is the strongest element, and the video I'm about to show you proves it again. This is raw footage from a tsunami in Palu in 2018, and it just shows how powerful water is.
Is Tupac still alive? There are many rumors and conspiracies that he might actually be hiding in plain sight. Get the latest reasons that might prove that he is still alive from this clip.
Tupac is still alive. For the longest time, Tupac was thought to have died in a drive-by shooting. However, many people still believe that he is alive. When he was alive, Tupac was obsessed with the idea of Machiavelli. Machiavelli was a famous artist that was known for faking his own death. The period before his death, Tupac was always prepared, wearing bulletproof vest and protecting himself. It was alleged that Tupac's team got news of a plan to execute him. So in order to protect himself, he faked his own death. Many people claim that Tupac was hiding in plain sight, seeing as Akil the MC bears many similarities to Tupac, and has even gone on record saying that he is Tupac. However, we will never know if.
Why was Elon Musk's proposed project to dig an underground tunnel discontinued by the government? Perhaps they saw something that might make the theory that there is already an underground tunnel that connects everywhere in the world true.
What is really going on beneath us? There is a theory that there are deep underground bases that connects all of the United States, as well as every continent on the planet, using underground tunnels. It is also said that horrible things happen in these tunnels. The underground bases are also said to be extremely advanced, using a super fast train to get around. Well, Elon Musk recently started a tunneling company, which mysteriously got discontinued. Was it because they discovered something underground? Something that we humans were not meant to find. That is why people wonder.
We've come to the end of today's episode. Which of these stories in these clips have you heard about before? Let us know in the comments section.